Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be entitled Molecular Communications, Scintillation, WSN, Smart Dust Networks. Does that make sense? What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about a full spectrum dominance field of electrical engineering, microbiology, neurobiology. I'm talking about physics. I'm talking about chemistry. I'm talking about the study of photonics and luminance. I'm talking about electronic magnetic frequency. I'm talking about sound. I'm talking about sonic energy. I'm talking about pure energy. Energy that can be expressed through light, through visible light, and invisible light. I'm talking about energy that can be expressed through sound that a dog can hear, but a human cannot. I'm talking about the ringing in my ears, which is the type of sound that humans can hear. Okay, so there's all types of sounds, audible sounds and inaudible sounds. There's all kinds of light beams, visible and invisible, infrared. And then there's the electronic magnetic frequency, which can be pulsed using the 6G terahertz sub-millimeter waves, which is the system that we are on. You are not on a 5G system. You are aware there's 5G equipment in and around wherever you live, your township or your rural area. There are 5G towers and mini cell towers all around wherever you're listening to this broadcast. But you're not on 5G technology. We use the equipment to run 6G terahertz sub-millimeter waves, which is 1,000 times more potent and powerful than the 5G pulsing. The pollution that you see behind my head here, this is called smart dust. I used to call it chemtrails because it comes out of airplanes at 18 to 20,000 feet up. This chalk, it's aluminum metal oxide. They have different recipes of it, but it almost always includes aluminum. It's the stuff you find in semiconductor microchips. It's the same recipe. They take aluminum and titanium and lithium and arsenic poison, and they bake it into a cake of silicon. Because everyone thinks, oh, I have a silicon chip. And silicon, which is a carbon isotope, it by itself is radio frequency conductive. That's true. But when you bake this pollution into silicon, it becomes tremendously more conductive, making your microchips into integrated circuits, IC, integrated chips or integrated circuits, microchips. And I think you can see that by dumping this over humans, over farmlands and water systems and wetlands, you're essentially trying to convert bunny rabbits, squirrels, groundhogs, gophers, kitty cats, doggies, and humans. You're trying to convert them into integrated circuits, into chips. You're trying to chip everybody. You're turning everybody into a microprocessing board for machine to brain communications, machine to human. They want to market it, they meaning Swiss Bank Authority in Geneva, Switzerland. They want you to think they're doing this for your benefit so that you can control the machine. What a bunch of poppycock. They're not spending hundreds of trillions of dollars so that you can control the Cray computer or the HAL 9000. That's not why they're doing it. They're doing it so that the controllers in Switzerland can control you, to have the machine control the human using synthetic biology. Because obviously if this stuff gets in your eyeballs, into your lungs, into your gallbladder, into your pea-sized brain, if you're a denier of chemtrails like YouTube is, YouTube calls this condensation trails. It has nothing to do with condensation. It's aluminum chalk that's ground up and spit out of the back of military KC-10 extenders from McDonnell Douglas operating under NATO forces on NATO airspace. The air that you breathe is governed by Geneva, Switzerland, and NATO. NATO controls all your breathable air, all your drinkable water. NATO controls all the port facilities, all the airports, all the ports, all the containerization yards, all the truck depots, all the interstate highways, all the dirt roads, all the secondary roads. They control all manner of reservoirs, canal systems, rail systems. So it's intermodal transportation throughout every country in the world is controlled by NATO, which is code for Swiss Bank Authority, because you do know that the bank has unlimited, infinity amounts of money. The bank meaning Bank for International Settlements, the central bank of all central banks. So don't worry about the Fed and don't worry about Bank of America or Chase. They're insolvent. They completely do what they're told by their Swiss bank masters. All right, but I want to stay on the subject today. You're going to need to know the following vocabulary terms. So I suggest you get a pad, a paper, a pencil, and 2 adult beverages. And everybody listening to this video needs to understand smart dust, which is what we really call this. And the reason it's called smart dust is because it's really, in the military parlance, it's referred to as MOSFET, M-O-S-F-E-T, MOSFET. MOSFET is a military acronym for a weapon system called metal oxide semiconductors field effect transmitters. I'm sure you'll remember that. Don't worry, I will provide in the show notes descriptions of the things I'm talking about. But sometimes it's helpful to write things down when you hear MOSFET, M-O-S-F-E-T. You just write that, and then you can look at my website or my show notes for the description. Metal oxide semiconductors field effect transistors. You know, like if we walked out my front door and looked at the sky, you would see oxide semiconductors, also known as CMOS, CMOS. CMOS stands for complementary metal oxide semiconductors. So you see, everything in the military has multiple names just to confuse you. Just like Donald Trump, he has freedom cities. The World Economic Forum promotes C40 compliant cities, carbon neutral cities. Also, the World Economic Forum promotes 15-minute cities where you live within a perimeter of 15 minutes is the dimensions of your prison camp. You have a 15-minute city. You can't go beyond 15 minutes or you'll be arrested. You also heard the term smart city. I live in a smart city, like Manhattan is a smart city. FEMA camps, I think we've heard of that. FEMA camps, smart city, 15-minute city, Donald Trump, freedom city, same thing. FEMA camp, Trump, freedom city, Kamala Harris, Liberty City, California forever, Kamala Harris, Laureen Powell Jobs, Steve Jobs' widow, she's building a California forever city on 63,000 acres of property. When you add in the NATO Air Base, Travis Air Base is 8,000 acres, and Laureen Powell, Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz have purchased 55,000 acres of alfalfa and rice fields to build on 3 sides of a NATO Air Base a smart city called California Forever, i.e. FEMA camp. It's kind of a large FEMA camp. I think you could squeeze 1 million people into their scheme. They're alleging they want to put 400,000 people in there, but you know they lie. So it's probably 3 times that, 1.2 million. All right, so just like you have a dozen names for what's called a FEMA camp, because FEMA camp sounds like poor salesmanship, so you call it freedom, which of course means enslavement. Or you call it smart city, which means stupid city. Or you call it C4 compliance, which means molecular communication harvesting you like a dairy cow. That's how you go carbon neutral, is that you have the system where the machine controls the human, machine to brain interface, and then you reverse engines and you suck, like a vampire, you suck the electronic energy out of the humans and store it in a lithium battery off-site. That's called human husbandry. It's milking you like a dairy cow. This pollution can do that, along with other things. If you watch the internet as of late, you'll hear there's two main false narratives that are discussed. One was the Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris fake election for fake leader of the United States. Completely fake, and nothing will change. Everything's exactly the same. They're both controlled by the same Swiss bank authority. But that dominated the internet the last 2 weeks, was the phony fake presidential election of the phony fake nation, which is insolvent, America, which owes $36 trillion of debt, loses $2 trillion a year in its annual financial operations. So it's in no position to make any decisions since Swiss bank authority controls America. And we're in a state of emergency, which is code for we're at war. And the Constitution is suspended and has been suspended for my entire life. We've never had a Constitution, never had a court of constitutional law. There's no such thing as constitutional law. There's no such thing as a Bill of Rights. There's privileges within Hunger Game military authority. We're under maritime law, admiralty law. The captain's in charge. We follow orders or people die. It's just that simple. All right, my next thought is that you need to understand the terminology of synthetic biology. That's when you take artificial and you combine it with human to create cyborgs, and they want to call it synthetic biology instead of what it really is, which is post-humanity. You're destroying the human and you're creating this cyborg, a hybrid. Smart dust is what is called complementary metal oxide semiconductors, also known as metal oxide semiconductors field effect transmitters. These are transmitters. These are biosensors. The dust is smart because it's biosensor. It's radio frequency, and it can stimulate scintillation and luminescence. It can stimulate light beam weapons. It can stimulate acoustics. It can stimulate magnetic resonance imagery. It can stimulate energy, pure energy, and electronic magnetic frequency, aka Havana syndrome, aka bird flu, monkeypox, COVID, coronavirus, COVID-19, Omicron variant of COVID, Mpox, monkeypox, bird flu, mad cow disease. The symptoms for influenza can now be tremendously exaggerated by using the smart dust, the metamaterials. That's what all the names are. Contrails, chemtrails, smart dust, metamaterials, neural dust for neuro links. This stuff gets in your brain just like it gets in your gallbladder. What is smart dust also known as? Well, it's known as WSN. That's what the company who manufactures it calls it. They call it Wireless Sensor Networks, Dust Networks Incorporated. It was founded in 2002. Who created this satanic, evil pollution? I'll tell you. It was RAND Corporation working directly with the Department of Defense, aka the Department of War, DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Products Agency. Programs. Defense Advanced Research Program Agency, DARPA. And then DARPA went to University of California, Berkeley, and found Chris Pister, and he wrote a proposal to create and manufacture smart dust, which had been conceived in the 1990s by the RAND Corporation of Santa Monica, California. So we have the RAND Corporation, you got the Department of Defense, which has a department called DARPA, and then you have this company called Dust Networks with Christopher Pister, whose father was a chancellor for University of California Systems, all 9 campuses. And so you got those 4. Then they got MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, involved with Joy Weiss, who has a master's degree from MIT, and she became the president, CEO of Dust Networks, which is a company that specializes in the design and manufacturing of wireless sensor networks, aka smart dust. They even named their company Dust networks. And they hide under the cover story of EHS, environmental health and safety, that they're creating all this to monitor the applications for industry so that we won't have fires or chemical spills because we're hiding behind the public safety of EHX. EHS, environment, health, and safety. Also, they want you to know they're concerned about power management, like smart meters. Anyway, you should know Dust Networks has been acquired by Linear Technology in December 2011, which in turn was acquired by another unholy alliance called Analog Devices Incorporated in 2017. Dust Networks has a product team and it operates within the Internet of Things networking platform group of Analog Devices, which is the parent company to Dust Networks. They follow the standards groups promulgated by the IEEE in Manhattan, New York, and in New Jersey, Institute for Electronics and Electrical Engineers, and the Wireless Heart and the IETF to help drive the adoption of interoperable wireless sensor networking products so the HAL 9000 can control and pacify all the human beings by controlling the thoughts in their heads and zapping them with the Havana syndrome or monkeypox or, God forbid, the bird flu. If they are non-compliant and disobedient, you will get the bird flu. This process is called molecular engineering, which I'm going to discuss in a minute. It's also known as SynBio, which is another military acronym for describing synthetic biology, is known in the military parlance as SynBio. Just like psychops, psychological operations, they call it psyops. Psyops. Clandestine operations are called OP, right? You understand why the military does it. Everything's military, every single thing. The phony fake presidential election, that's a military program called Chaos, to confuse the profane and clueless people who don't seem to understand that Donald Trump has no authority whatsoever. And Joe Biden, I think he's in a coma. Don't forget, Joe Biden has been jabbed 3 times for COVID, and he got COVID 3 times, proving that it doesn't work. Donald Trump got the vax, and he got the jab, and he got a booster, and he got COVID twice. So Donald Trump proving that the vaccine does not work. Warp speed does not work. All right, anyway, so some of the vernacular of terms, glossary of terms you must know are chemtrails, smart dust, metamaterials, biosensors, wireless sensor networks, WSN. You should also know EHS, environment, health, and safety. That's a cover story. For molecular engineering, synthetic biology, known as SynBio. You should understand the RAND Corporation. Do your research on the RAND Corporation. DARPA, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Association, Organization. North Atlantic Treaty Organization. NATO. ITU, International Telecommunications Union, which is part of the United Nations, just like the World Bank. The World Bank group of 5 banks is associated with the United Nations, works in conjunction with BIS, Bank for International Settlements, the central bank of central banks, works very closely with World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, WEF. You should know that. You should know who Klaus Schwab is. You should know what the agenda is for 2025 and the World Economic Forum agenda is for 2030. You will own nothing and be happy. Synthetic biology, SynBio, psychops, which is psychological operations. You should know what CMOS is, complementary metal oxide semiconductor. You should know what MOSFET is, metal oxide semiconductors field effect transistors. You should know what magnetic resonance imagery is, MRI. You should know what ultrasound means. They have all this equipment at your local hospitals, which are military outposts. An acute care hospital is a military unit. acoustics, sonics, sound, audible and inaudible, still sound. Just because you can't hear it doesn't mean you're not being targeted, traced, tracked, and targeted by a sound wave. If your neighbors have Ring cameras, if you have street lights with the LED lights, you can be attacked through sound and light, photonics, scintillation, luminescence. Am I illuminating the problem? That you are in a Hunger Game war zone and you are surrounded by weapons. Ring cameras, Amazon sidewalk, Apple sidewalk, the street lights, the Ring cameras, the pollution all around you in your breathable airspace, which is, of course, wireless sensor network smart dust. That's what this is. That's why I have it behind my head. I have this as a visual aid. It's to remind you the single most important thing is this. And in social media, the most important thing is Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris and how they're going to change the world. And the other is the vaccine, that they lied to us about the vaccine. Well, every person who refused to get the COVID vaccine, they haven't changed their mind. They've been validated. They were correct. And all the morons who went out and got vaccinated, they haven't changed their mind either. I mean, they're whistling past the cemetery. They think everything's fine. But they're missing the point. The vaccine is not relevant in the story. The vaccine has now become a cover story because, see, the vaccine doesn't just work by itself alone. It works through scintillation. It works through the 7G. This is 7G technology. 7G is the wireless sensor network of smart dust. 6G is a electronic energy field that runs on 5G equipment. Millimeter waves, sub-millimeter waves is 6G terahertz, 1,000 times more potent than 5G. But you see, 6G millimeter waves don't travel well. So it bounces off your street lights and all this pollution behind my head here, which I've told you is smart dust, which I've told you is wireless sensor networks, which I've told you is metal oxide semiconductor field effect transponders or transistors. I'm telling you, this is complementary oxide semiconductors behind my head. And the 6G terahertz bounces off these and relays energy into your bone marrow, making that process known as molecular communications. You don't have to be vaccinated. You don't have to wear a Fitbit or carry your cell phone to bed with you. You can still be controlled and traced, tracked, and targeted using the smart dust and the 6G terahertz through the wall of your home into your bedroom or bathroom or living room or kitchen, into your dog, into your kitty cat, into you, and you can be tagged because you have your own unique DNA. That goes into a database, probably an Oracle database, in the underground lair in Bluffdale, Utah, 20 miles south of Salt Lake City in the Mormon LDS cult known as Utah. And they have your digital twin on file, a dossier of you and your activities of daily living, your ADLs. Activities of daily living, that's another acronym you should write down. ADL, activities of daily living. It can go along with MOSFET and CMOS and SynBio and DARPA and the RAND Corporation and SRI International, Stanford Research Institute International. And it's all going to be disguised under a Trojan horse of poppycock lies, like precision medicine, e-medicine, personalized medicine, e-pharmacy. In other words, you're not going to have to go to your doctor anymore. They're going to deliver your diagnosis and a cure to your symptoms via molecular communications and the wireless sensor networks. Now, let me read to you what molecular communication systems are. It's the use of the presence or absence of a selected type of molecule to digitally encode messages into your bone marrow. That's molecular communications. Molecules are delivered into a communication medium using air or water for transmission. Well, these biosensors behind my head here, these wireless biosensor smart dust, are using air. But when it comes down and lands in the wetland or in the reservoir or in the lakes that you drink water from, can be transmitted and functioning within the water. And your body is 80% water, right? So this stuff works in humans, and it makes you, a human, into a 5G cell tower. Only you're a 6G. You're a 6 or a 7G cell tower. Remember, 7G is just the dust. 6G is the energy that runs the photonics and the acoustics and the phased array weapon system. It's very important that you know that by yourself as a human being, setting all this technology aside, you have a wireless body area network. You have electronic magnetic frequency within your own body to run your brain and to pulse your heart, so that your heart pulses through electronic magnetic frequency. And what the military and Swiss banks have done is they've created a way to hack into your body, right? And then they can make it look like you died of cancer or a heart attack when you really died of radiation poisoning. Radiation poisoning coming from photonics or sound waves or electronic shock treatments. Now, you do know, people, this is an old technology. They've been doing electroshock treatments on people since before 1865. Remember shock treatments, electroshock treatments, lobotomies. Timothy Leary did it. His cohort, Richard Alpert, he did it. Louis Jolyon West, he killed a 3,000-pound elephant using LSD and probably electric shock treatments too. But they always today use this technique in hospitals to monkey around with your brain through electromagnetic treatments or MRIs or ultrasound. So molecular communications is not new. It's not new at all. Molecular signaling is used by plants and animals, and the bumblebees use pheromones to communicate using long-distance signaling. So nature and technology have come together using synthetic biology, which is a multidisciplinary area of research to seek to create new biological parts, devices, and systems, or to redesign systems that are already found in nature, like the bumblebees using pheromones. This involves the design and construction of new biological entities such as enzymes, generic circuits, and cells for the redesign of existing biological systems, hence the term synthetic biology. Synbio. The field of research aims to carefully create operational biological systems from the smallest constituent parts, which includes your DNA, proteins, and other organic molecules. This has nothing to do with a deadly coronavirus, has nothing to do with COVID, nothing to do with monkeypox or mpox or the coming bird flu. Those are all mendacities created to get people to get more booster shots, more vaccines, which just take the smart dust and put it into your body in a higher concentration form. I mean, it's a full spectrum system. The issue is not vaccines. The issue is molecular communications of 6G terahertz. You notice that the media doesn't talk about any of this stuff, right? And neither does Donald Trump. And neither does Justin Trudeau, right? No political leader talks about synthetic biology or 6G terahertz or 7G wireless smart dust, wireless sensing networks. None of them talk about what I just mentioned. MOSFET, metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistors. Do you think Tucker Carlson knows anything about this? Or Alex Jones? Or Rachel Madcow? Or Stu Peters, Stupiders? Or Jane Rubenstein, the Jewish fake phony doctor that's a fake nurse? You think she knows anything about this? You think Oliver Silverstein or Sean Stone knows about synthetic biology and wireless sensor networks? If they do, they're not talking. Nobody is talking in the media. No one that has a really large audience Dr. John Campbell, who's not a doctor, nor is he a nurse. He's a fake nurse, and he's a fake doctor, and he has 3.1 million followers at YouTube. He's never mentioned synthetic biology. He doesn't talk about wireless sensor networks. He doesn't talk about techno-enslavement systems, the World Economic Forum, that by 2030 you'll own nothing and be happy. He never mentions that because he's a concealment artist and he's a fraud and he's COINTELPRO. He's disinformation, he's military counterintelligence, means he's the opposite of intelligence. He's the chief of stupidity. That's what he promotes. Photonics is a branch of optics that involves the application of generation, detection, and manipulation of light in the form of photons through emission, transmission, modulation, signal processing, switching, amplification, and sensing. Do you understand? I'll provide a link. Anyway, let me just check my time here. Yeah, it's been 30 minutes. So sip your adult beverage, calm down. It's important that you understand the grave danger that we're under. And it's important that you understand when you see sports on television or music or Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga, it's important that you understand they're very important in the distraction of people away from the reality. The Titanic hit an iceberg. It's going to be gone in 60 minutes. It's going to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. It's going to go at least 300 feet down. And if you can swim in icy cold water for hours that it's going to take to be rescued, you can survive. But most people cannot last that long, so they need to get into a life raft. And they need to do that, a lifeboat, as soon as possible, because you see, the ship is going to list. And once it lists, half the lifeboats are going to be disabled. They won't be able to be lowered into the water because only the lower lifeboats will, and most of them are going to get swamped by the water. So you only have a narrow window of time to get into your lifeboat. You know, you got 15 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes maximum to find an escape, because this ship's going down. This ship is going down. Now, my suggestion is that you chummy up to one of your local private bankers that lives behind a 40-foot hedgerow and get to know him and his family really well, because perhaps he has a lifeboat that you can use, right? Maybe these private bankers have escape plans. Anyway, just a thought, just a random thought coming out of the Juxtaposition channel. Never going to get this. That's why I have a small audience, because they have done a hell of a job to keep me shadow banned and to keep my videos from going viral. I do recommend you pay the $25 a month or the $280 a year and become a supporter of my channel so that I can expand the education from this channel and move forward with the coming to grips with NATO and Swiss bank authority. Take care. Bye-bye.